Welcome back, everybody, to Shining Empathy. My name is Joel, and this is your weekly reading for, I think it's August 29th to September 4th, I believe. Double check those dates, but pretty sure that's it. So, I decided to use a different deck of cards for this reading today. And the reason for that being my daily reading and my new moon reading I did earlier, or before this, have been a little bit on the tense side. A lot of anxiety, a lot of just stormy weather in terms of emotional landscapes. Just a lot of hard stuff coming. I talked about how this is kind of for our spiritual development right now, and a lot of stuff is coming. Mercury is going retrograde. I feel like a lot of people are feeling that right now. But I decided to grab a deck that had more healing messages, and this is the Indigo Angel Oracle cards by Doreen Virtue, the only Doreen Virtue deck I own. I typically don't connect very well with her cards. I find a lot of her decks can be very one-sided. If I was just looking for healing messages, that's when I can pull out a deck like this and maybe get a good reading. But if I want advice in the situation, it's not as good for that. It's also just very one-sided in terms of a lot of her decks are just about love and light and don't really talk about much else. And of course, I'm going to get some flack for this, but I like a deck that doesn't necessarily subtly dance around certain things, in a transformation card. Well, this might be a painful process, but look, I'm a beautiful butterfly now. No, let's talk about the shadow stuff. Let's talk about the pain that's going to be experienced here. Let's talk about that, because that's the part that, we can step back and look at the bigger picture and say, sure, I'm in mid-transformation right now, but what I feel right now is the pain of the process. So can someone help guide me through that and help me navigate that? That's important. So, it's all good and well to tell somebody, I'm sending you love, I'm praying for you, or, here, go do this, or, give them some simple advice in terms of, just imagine a bubble around yourself and protect yourself. It's all good to do those things, but that can't be the only stuff we talk about. We have to talk about the shadow sides of things, because it's part of our human nature. It's part of this world. This world isn't all bubbles and rainbows. And I didn't want to go into a spiel about this, but apparently I'm going to. So, it's just the reason why I haven't been able to connect with a lot of Doreen Virtue decks. I've always wanted to get into them, and it's why I finally did crack and buy this deck, because I've always thought of myself as possibly an indigo child. And I thought, oh great, an indigo deck. The funny thing is right down to the indigo color, and this is where it's a little bit short-sighted in her decks, I find. If a person is an indigo child, typically what that means and why they're referred to as indigo children is because their energetic field would have a lot of indigo in it. Now, if you have an excess of a color in your auric field, typically you will be repulsed by that color in a way. You won't feel necessarily attracted to that color. Maybe you don't dislike it, but you're not going to be attracted to that color. You're not going to go out of your way to get it in your wardrobe or paint your walls like that. You're going to be attracted to colors that are complementary in the spectrums that you're lacking. So I find it interesting that the entire deck, of course, is themed with an indigo color. And it's really, really, the themes on it are really kind of dark. So unfortunately, I feel like that was just some poor choices, because an indigo child or an indigo person doesn't need more indigo. So right away, that I felt was just like a disconnect from this deck. So hopefully, because this is more of a healing deck, and the reason that I am using it today, sorry for the ramble, everybody, is because this is one of my most healing message deck. I love the messages in this deck. They are fantastic, and I used to use these with my other deck as a one-card pull, sort of like a little bit of last-minute advice for healing. And the deck worked amazing for that. So I'm hoping that this week with our weekly reading, some good strong healing messages will come through, because it just feels like we need it this week. So I'm going to stop myself there before I ramble on too much more, and apologies if I offended anybody who loves Dorian Virtue decks. It is a simple preference on my part. I'm not saying that anyone who uses them can't get amazing messages from them. So apologies if I offended anybody. It's just my own personal opinion, nothing more. So let's get into it. So again, I'm going to do the same spread, strength, heart, and challenge for this week, and see what we get. Set the intention for anyone who's watching that they connect with the cards and the messages for this week's reading. All right, so in our strength spot, apologize. Actually, no, I am going to turn the camera down. I'm trying to get into a habit of doing this so that you guys can just see the reading as I go. All right. So, apologize. In our strength spot, I think this just means maybe some of us are seeking forgiveness, or feel we have wronged either ourselves or other people. But forgiveness and maybe even guilt are kind of are very high right now in terms of like what's on the surface. So this is a time when, being in our strength spot, you may find it easier to apologize, be it to yourself or to somebody else. Okay, so if a situation presents itself and you find yourself currently in a situation where you feel like you've done wrong, or you feel like you've done wrong to somebody else or to yourself, now's a good time to actually sit and apologize for that, because being in our strength spot, we just have maybe a little bit easier access to that. It's not always easy to apologize and admit wrongdoing, but I feel like maybe for this week we might have a bit more success in just admitting any wrongdoing that we might have had. So moving on to our heart spot. Pray. So being in our heart spot, it just means, I always think of prayer as focused intention, focused thought. When you sit and you pray, and I'm not talking about just praying to God or anything like that. Prayer is just simply a matter of taking your thoughts and directing them at someone or something. So in the heart spot, it just means whatever's in your heart right now, we need to really focus and direct that out. We need to either put it into words in a prayer, for if you believe in God, pray to God or angels or guides or whatever, or the universe, or just talk to, I guess talk to the universe, or the all as I call it. And sometimes that's exactly what I do. I just sit and I just talk to whoever and whatever might be listening. And I can't tell you how therapeutic it is when I'm feeling something and I just start talking about it. It usually happens during my meditations, and I never used to, but I certainly do now regard that as prayer when I'm just talking about stuff that I'm thinking or feeling during my meditations. Some of you might be thinking, well, that's not meditating. Well, for me it is. It's part of my meditation. If something is very prominent in my thoughts or in my feelings, and meditation isn't about pushing everything aside. It's about observing. It's about clearing the clutter and sifting through it. But if something keeps presenting itself, maybe it just needs to come out. Okay? So if you find yourself in a position where your feelings just need to be spoken, or whatever, if you just need to direct those somehow, I highly recommend that method. Okay? So let's move on to our challenge spot. Okay, time to create. This card usually on its own would just mean that it's a good time to create. It's a good time to kind of take a more therapeutic approach to art or any kind of creative process and get stuff out that way and process it that way. However, being in a challenge spot this week, I'm going to say that maybe that's not our go-to. And in fact, I feel like talking about things might be a bit more up our alley, whether it's in prayer or just out loud to whoever and whatever, or I could even say that journaling can sort of be, and diaries are sort of like prayers. It's focusing your thoughts at the end of the day. It's getting stuff out. If you have any emotions that are pent up, it's putting it down on paper and extracting it from you in a way. It's directing that energy and focusing it. But it doesn't sound like our usual creative outlets are going to help us a lot this week. So if your normal creative outlets aren't working for you, don't be so hard on yourself if you just can't tap into that. It's okay. It's just a challenge for us this week. Maybe just talk it out with yourself or with other people. Write it down. But I feel like this is going to be more of a feeling nature. We're all in a lot of turbulence in regards to our feelings right now, with this being in our heart right now. So yeah, I don't know that there's much else I'm going to say about these cards. So yeah, I think that's it. All right. So I hope that all of you got something healing from these cards. It's a little bit of a different flavor than what I would normally read with these decks. I had one deck that I was using for a while that was very centered on consciousness and kind of higher energy stuff, and then I used my energy oracle deck for a few readings, and I probably will go back to that, but just for this week at least, or whenever I feel the need for it. The energy or indigo oracle deck seems to suit the purpose of getting out the healing messages. So just to reiterate, any wrongdoings, whether to yourself or someone else, it's going to be probably a little bit easier to see those this week. So go ahead and apologize for that, because it's not always easy to apologize. So take the step and actually apologize for wrongdoings. Pray in the heart spot. Focus your feelings. Focus on them and focus them into something, be it words, out loud, on a page, or whatever. But just focus them and direct them somewhere, okay? And I don't mean if you're angry to sit and shout at somebody or, whatever. Sometimes I will, though, if I am feeling anger, I will angrily shout at the universe, the all, not in a I'm blaming you kind of a way, but I am feeling this and it sucks. And get it out that way. It can be very therapeutic. So whatever it is you're feeling, it's time to get it out. Direct it. And reiterate also that in our challenge spot, our creative outlets aren't necessarily going to be as accessible to us this week, and it's okay. That will change, it will pass. It's just for right now, if any of you are having trouble with that. Okay. So re-summarize there. I hope you connected with this. If you did, please go ahead and like this video and subscribe to my YouTube page, Shining Empathy. And I will see you all next week and check in with you, and hopefully it's a little bit brighter next week. Okay? All right. Love and light to you all. Good luck, everybody. Bye for now.